Also had a great love of the Sufis, and Baghdad is a great center for tasawwuf in his time. And even more, I think, than the other four Imams, Imam Ahmad is keen to associate with the great Sufis of his time. He had a particular love for somebody who was perhaps the most famous Sufi of Baghdad of the time, Ma'ruf al-Karhi, who he called one of the Abdal, one of the great saints named in the Hadith, whose prayers are answered. He said the prayers of this Sufi are always answered. Somebody complained once and said, "You're spending a lot of time with Ma'ruf and you're venerating him and his memory, but he's not a scholar." And Ahmad said, "Nonsense. Is true knowledge anything other than what Ma'ruf has achieved?" It's important to remember this. Sometimes we think of Ahmad and the Hanbalis as being kind of like the Zahiris. They're just interested in external things and there's no batin, there's no inward wisdom. But look at how he says that this man, Ma'ruf al-Karhi, a simple Sufi who is busy converting Zoroastrians, but he's basically a man of wa'az and irshad and hadi and zuhd and taqashuf, that he said that is real knowledge. That is Islam in action. That is not just some kind of academic transmission. That is the reality of Islam. Very interesting response. He also respected the Sufis because of the virtue of murabata. Some of the scholars in Baghdad just lived in sometimes considerable comfort, accepting judgeships, having quite substantial retinues, and never getting involved in the difficult stuff, such as fighting the jihad on the frontiers against the Byzantines, who are not so far away. But there was something called the virtue of murabata in that time, which meant that you took time off and you went to one of the frontier fortresses, which are often kind of in hilltop locations, very cold in the winter, in the Anatolian plateau, southern part of what's now Turkey. Very difficult thing to do. And in those ribat castles, there would be obviously military training, but there would be a lot of dhikr and a lot of scholarship, a lot of transmission of hadith, a lot of memorization. But it was a difficult thing. But Imam Ahmad respected the Sufis because of their particular connection to this. And somebody who perhaps he loved more than anybody else who was alive in his day was Bishr al-Hafi, known as Bishr the Barefoot, who was in turn the teacher of Sari al-Saqati and was well known as an exoteric scholar. He was a Hanafi. Some say that he followed the school of al-Thawri, but probably he was a Hanafi in his fiqh, but a great hadith scholar because of the close connection that existed in this period, both in Baghdad and Central Asia, between the Sufis and the Ahl al-Hadith. So they're almost the same category of people. Bishr al-Hafi is a good example of this. Daraqutni says of Bishr al-Hafi, Zahid Jabal Thiqa. He's a Zahid, he's not interested in things of this dunya, but he's a mountain of scholarship, and he's Thiqa. He's an absolutely reliable hadith narrator, and Imam Ahmad loved him as a hadith narrator. But Bishr al-Hafi was also famous for murabata. He would spend time on the frontiers as a soldier or as a cavalryman in order to defend the world of Islam from the Byzantine threat. And this connection between the military dimension of the religion with tasawwuf in this period is particularly well known. Bishr, one could give lectures and lectures about Bishr al-Hafi. You can see why Imam Ahmad loved him and loved his company and regarded him really as Islam in action. One famous story about how once Bishr was walking from his majlis through the streets in Baghdad, and a man who was completely drunk comes up to him and embraces him, saying, "Ya Sayyidi, Ya Sayyidi," drunk out of his mind, doesn't know what he's saying, and he reeks of wine, and he grabs him and kisses him on both cheeks and won't let go. Of course, the other disciples are shocked by this kind of impure, disgraceful person, but Bishr doesn't push him away. He allows him to finish and go on his own way. And then Bishr and his murids are looking at him, his eyes fill with tears, and he says, "There is a man who loves another man because he is imagining that there is some good in him. But perhaps the lover is saved, but the one who is loved is unsure about his final destination." That's exactly the kind of Muslim that Imam Ahmad loved. Complete humility, lack of interest in dunya, lack of confidence about his own salvation, and thinking that this man who greeted him because of his love was inshallah a man who Allah would save, whereas he himself was unsure about his final destination. So many other beautiful stories about Bishr al-Hafi, the great Sufi of Baghdad. And he had a number of Sufis in his inner circle, including one of the greatest of them all at the time, Ahmad bin Abil Hawari, and many of others who were narrating hadith directly from Imam Ahmad. So he's with the Sufis, he's really zahid, he's living about as simple a life as one can without dying of starvation. It's really austere. But he's a man of the Sunnah and does not neglect the Sunnah of marriage. And it seems he had a very lively, active, happy family life, despite the very considerable poverty that he lived in. His first wife was called Abi Abbasa. She bore him his son Salih. When she dies, he marries an Arab woman called Rayhana, who bears him Abdullah, who is his famous son, who goes on to become a qadi and a narrator. And when she too dies, he says, "May Allah have mercy on her. We lived together for 20 years and we never quarrelled once." And he never married again. And it seems, although obviously private about his private life, that he had a very great, deep, good relationship, loving relationship with these two women. So that's characteristically Islamic, ultimately, of course, prophetic. The zuhud, lack of interest in dunya and comfort, but the sunnah of marriage is something that is important for him.